Welcome to the Libertarian Conservative Group podcast, the show that discusses everything from a libertarian conservative twist. I'm James, and today we're joined by Sean. On today's show, I have Sean Finch from the Libertarian Party UK, who is London and South East Regional Coordinator. How are you doing today?
Very good. Yeah, I know it's quite a bit of a mouthful saying that title.
It is, don't worry about it.
Just got used to it myself.
I know it's not been long since you've been appointed to that. Start of the year, is it, roughly?
No, it was just after the general election in 2019.
I
was running two campaigns really. I was running the general election one and the internal one. So yeah.
Perfect. So today we'll be discussing globalisation, corporation bailouts, and Donald Trump. And of course, if coronavirus comes up, then by all means we'll be discussing that too. So firstly, I think we should discuss Donald Trump and the time he is having with the media, especially last week. I've got to say, it does seem that he cannot get it right or wrong at the moment. On one hand, he's been accused of not acting tough enough or quick enough on coronavirus. On the other hand, he's been accused of going too far. The guy just cannot win. What do you think about the saga surrounding Donald Trump and the media's portrayal of him?
That has been going on since he was running for president. Even if Donald Trump managed to find the solution for cancer, the cure for it, he would still be attacked by the media. He would still be like, "Oh, you found it for cancer? Why not AIDS? Well, don't you like gay people? That's all." Or it'll be that kind of mentality. And yeah, you're right. He can't get anything right. I mean, even the media now have basically become like the opposition. So anything he does, they will automatically take the polar opposite opinion. Now, you could say that maybe that's what the media is for, to scrutinize, which it is, yes, very good. But, I want more of that, yes. But are they doing it because it's their civic responsibility to do so for the greater good? No, it's simply because they hate him. And I say hate, I don't mean dislike him. I mean, they absolutely hate him. Yeah. And they will choose the opposite side of whatever, even if he, was enlightened in some way, and it was like a really great, all people should live. They would say, "Oh no, all people shouldn't live. Some people should die." And it'd be this kind of message constantly about it. But yeah, they absolutely detest him. Yeah.
Well, the reason it's come up is look at how they went after him over his disinfectant comments. And they said that Trump had suggested that doctors study the idea of receiving injections of disinfectant to combat the virus. But that's just an outright lie. I've got the exact quote here. So he said, "I see the disinfectant that knocks it out in a minute. 1 minute. Is there a way we can do something like that by injecting inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see, it gets inside the lungs and it does a tremendous number on the lungs. So it would be interesting to check that out." Now, his English is broken and I struggle to read that. But nowhere in there did he suggest injecting disinfectant. He said, "Can we have a look at something like disinfectant that knocks it out on the outside?"
Yeah, I'm actually really disappointed you didn't do that in a Trump impression, a Trump voice there. You didn't say, "We found this disinfectant. It's really great thing, and we need to put it in our lungs, but we won't." What he said there is, yeah, you're right. He never said take disinfectant, drink it. He was just, he was just speaking in. He was speculating openly. He was trying to break it down, or saying it in his own Trumpian way, and just basically saying, I imagine before the press conference, he's got a team of people, obviously, and they've explained it to him probably using scientific jargon, and then he's come out, and because he, I know he's a billionaire, but he is a typical guy, really, isn't he? I mean, And I think he's basically then just said it in his own unique way of saying it, or communicating it to the mass public, right?
Yeah.
And and you're right. He never did say, you know, he was just basically trying to explain it in a more sort of dumbed down kind of version of saying it. And when I heard it back, because I heard first that he had said, the media spinning it. Oh, Trump says we need to drink disinfectant. And then when I actually went and, read what he said and actually listened to what he said on audio,
yeah,
I'm like, what? There's nothing wrong here. The
no,
guy says nothing. And, keep in mind, I'm not a dogmatic Trump lover. I will criticize Trump, but I don't hate him. I don't worship the guy, and I don't hate the guy. I'll criticize some of his policies and I'll praise others. But this is not a warranted time for the media to jump on him for that reason, especially during this period where we've got all of this going on in the world now with COVID-19.
yeah.
I think it's just so and that just shows you that the media, the mainstream media, it's just a fact now. No one trusts them. They're the most distrusted mainstream media, I think, in history. And it's this sort of behavior that justifies that these YouGov polls and whatever the other polls are saying, that they're distrusted. Yes, definitely. So they need to get their act together proper.
Look at the COVID-19 skepticism in the UK. And I say it's skepticism because we've had, 3 and a bit years of Parliament, the media, the establishment against any Brexit voter whatsoever. And I will say, I bet the most of the skeptics of coronavirus are on the Brexit side. Why? Because we couldn't trust them for 3.5 years. It's only just passed through Parliament, and now we're meant to trust them 100% on what they're saying now. I, for one, don't buy that we should be trusting 100% into what they're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is what I try to explain to people, is that we have a state, right?
Yeah.
And when I say the state, I'm not talking about exclusively the government. People use this sort of interchangeably, that the state and government are the same thing. I think we both know that, the state is made up of government plus many other institutions and services. Yes, like the judiciary, the police, the House of Lords, not just government, not just the executive. Yeah. And I said, when this emergency coronavirus act passed, or just before it passed, I've never wrote to my MP, right? And I, because personally, I'm the sort of person that you don't get an MP, or don't get, a government MP to try and sort out your problems. You sort out your own problems, because if anything, the government will always make it worse. But it's one of the few times ever in my life. I think I did write to Michael Fallon before, but again, it wasn't about me. It was about some sort of atrocity or something like that. Something that was, absolutely just wrong in my opinion. And I wrote to Laura Trott, who I stood against, and I tried to explain this to her. And I said, you have to understand that this is a state that has lied in 2002. I want to go to war with the Iraq nation, the Iraq country. And people go, oh, well, that's back in 2002. No. It's the same state. The government may have changed, but pretty much it's the exact same House of Lords, because they're peers. They're there till life. They're the same. They're the same peers. It's the same judiciary. It's the same, it's the same police that hit up grooming gangs for decades. It's the same, all of these things. It's the same state which bans people like what's her name? Lauren Southern and Brittany Pettibone, who wanted to speak at Speaker's Corner, and the Terrorism Act was used against them. They're not terrorists. No. It's the same state which, it wants to extradite Julian Assange. It's the same state that has denied the Brexit vote for the last 4 years. And yet our solution is to give them more power. So it's already a distrusted state anyway, and we want to give it more power. I mean, the whole point of the coronavirus was that it was created, or originated from at least, a super authoritarian state, China, which oppresses its people's rights. The reason why they can get away with making these types, or this incompetence, whether you want to believe it's a man-made thing or or something that these things happen in a place where they oppress people's civil liberties. And our solution is to become a super authoritarian state which oppresses people's liberties. That's madness. That is just a vicious cycle repeating again. We should be saying, no, 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 we want more freedom. We want, inform the people, let them make their own right, decisions, because people will do this without, even if the government was to disappear tomorrow, people would still be keeping social distancing rules. This is, it's an illusion to think that government is, that we need these people to actually protect us from a virus of all things. That's madness. The government can't protect you from a virus. It's absolutely nuts.
Well, as trying to think of his name now. Edward Snowden said, just referring to your government comment, when he refers to the deep state, he defines it as everything that is not the elected government, because no matter if your elected politician comes or goes, the deep state is the institutions that were there before, afterwards, and still remain there afterwards.
Yeah, that's what I call it. I don't call it the deep state because unfortunately that sort of term has been sort of basically it's associated too much with conspiracy theory, So I don't call them that. I just call them the permanent government. And when I say permanent government, I'm obviously, like you said, I'm talking about the civil servants. I'm talking about the House of Lords. I'm talking about all of these people that have a role in the state which have never been elected. And they'll be there whether it's a Labour government in power or a Conservative government or any or UKIP government, let's say, on craziness, like it doesn't matter. They'll always be there, and that's why I say, and I think that's what makes our part, the Libertarian Party, a different from all the other parties, because their solution is to, we just need to get in and we'll fix everything. Just their thing is that, we just need the right people. We just need the right leader, the right PM, and everything will suddenly change. That is the worst idea ever. What makes us different is that we need to change. We need to repeal acts. We need to reduce government sides, and state sides. Because and the whole thing is based on taxation. It does come down to that at the end. It's the genesis. All of these institutions and state services, they're all financed by our taxation. And I think personally, what you need to do is make it a voluntary tax system, because as soon as giving you choice to contribute to the state or not, because it's only then that when all of these state services realize that, wait, if we do a bad job, we might not get money. We might not get the funds. So suddenly all of those things like the grooming gangs, all of those things like, going to war. Wait a minute, if we go to war, there'll be a massive protest and people will stop paying their taxes to us. It'll be the first time we're actually a state. We're actually compete in a way for your money, for your hard-working money. And it's only then, because it's forced. See, these institutions don't care, because regardless if they give a good service or a bad service, they're always guaranteed to get your money, because it's done by force, it's done by taxation. But as soon as you turn that into a voluntary system, wait, if we don't work hard and actually, pull our finger out, we won't get paid. And I think that's where we need to start. We need to start looking at taxation differently. It all starts, the genesis of it is at taxation. But all these other parties, they all go, no, taxation's fine. Taxation's what we need to pay for to live in a civil society. We just need to get the right party in there, and then everything will magically change. No, that will not happen ever.
Well, just off topic slightly, but still relating to taxation, I was talking to a Liberal Democrat councillor the other day, right, who hit me with this line: we don't have to worry about national debt. It doesn't matter. We can always just keep borrowing more, and that national debt is good for the economy.
There is no party in Parliament which understands economics.
No.
There's none. It used to be the Conservative Party, but they are what I call them red Tories. They are simply, and they sort of acknowledge this as well, right? And I had a bit of I said this when I stood for election as well, at the hustings with Laura Trott, my new Sevenoaks MP, and I said that when someone describes themselves, and even Boris says this as well, if a Conservative MP or individual or party member ever describes themselves as a one nation Conservative or one nation Tory, that is basically politician newspeak for saying that they are not a traditional Tory. They do not believe in family values. They do not believe in individual entrepreneurism. They don't believe in business. They don't, and 9 times out of 10, they're Remainers. They're not Brexiteers. So, if anything, the Conservative Party and the Labour Party are basically the same party now, but the only slight difference is that the Labour Party is obviously a bit more, way more sort of left as it used to be.
Yeah.
And the Conservative Party are basically New Labour. So they're both on the left spectrum, but one is just more left than the other. There is no right-wing party in Parliament at the moment. There's no wrong with being right-wing, by the way. You know, right-wing's been sort of dirty. I mean, I don't even recognise myself as right-wing either. I simply say I'm a libertarian. I'm not left, I'm not right.
I've stopped with the whole left and right nonsense with myself anyway, because it's just pointless. Because if you look at the horseshoe model, they all become the same the closer they get to each other. So it's a pointless left and right. And like you just said there, red Tories. I had Sid Cordell on, leader of the Christians People's Alliance, on a few weeks back, and he was saying he left the Conservative Party just after who was the old Work and Pension Secretary, Brexiteer. I'm trying to think of his name.
Yes, I can't remember his name. Yes,
Ian Duncan Smith, right?
Yes, Ian Duncan. Yes.
When he lost what did he lose? I think he lost the leadership election. Yeah. Because of his pro-Catholic stance, right? That's when he left. And the reason he left then is because he could see that the party was just changing its direction to suit the public, to win votes. And like I discussed with him, as soon as you start selling out your principles, it's pointless standing as a political party.
Yeah, I tell you what's happened next. I was talking to a Breitbart UK journalist about this, and I said, because he is very much a traditional conservative, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And I was trying to explain to him is that the Conservative Party, what has happened is over the last 20 years, is that they watched in the 90s. They watched the most successful. They watched Labour become the government for the first time in many decades, a couple of decades, right?
Yeah.
And they had the longest serving, at least to my knowledge, and the longest serving prime minister in Tony Blair. So what did the Conservatives do? Basically, they done what any other good business does, because parties are businesses. People don't need to realise that they're there to make big bucks. They're there, once they get into government, that's when they start making the big bucks. Yeah. This is what they did. They watched, they observed Tony Blair serving for 3 consecutive terms, and they went, we need to copy that model. We need to copy the model, but improve it slightly. And I used improve with air quotes there. Basically, what they did was they just cloned the new Labour model, and then they just simply removed Tony Blair. So basically, Conservative Party is New Labour without Tony Blair. That is the improvement model. And then they just copied that, and it won them success. And that's why in the early 2000s, there was a big expulsion of libertarian-minded people. And there's actually go on YouTube. There's actually a YouTube video of then newly elected MP Boris Johnson debating a well-known libertarian in England called Sean Gabb. And Sean Gabb absolutely mops the floor of the guy, Boris Johnson. And it's a really interesting everything he says, and it's something he calls the Quisling right, and that's basically what is now I call red Tory. So it's the Quisling right. It's it's the people that used to have standards, used to have morals, and the Conservative Party are anything but conservative anymore. And that's basically what they've done. So they basically just copied the model of New Labour, but just simply improved it by removing the Tony Blair presence of it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's it. So that's what I mean. I think and for a Lib Dem to say what they just said just tells me that they have no clue of economic liberty whatsoever.
No.
They have no clue of economics, right? And that's why I said the Libertarian Party is the only party that actually has an understanding of economics. Like, because most parties, they only ever talk about civil liberties, but freedom or liberty in general is made up of two components. It's made up of civil liberties and it's
economic.
also and economic liberty. But all parties that I've ever come across have only ever focused on civil liberty because it's more easier to sell. Freedom of speech, it's all easy to sell. But you have to understand in history, and I don't mean to invoke Godwin's law here, but I need to say this, is that even the Nazi Party were a free speech party because in the Weimar Republic, they had hate speech laws, right? So if that doesn't show to you that hate speech laws do not work to the point where they literally elected the Nazi Party, then because you create a Streisand effect, we're going to ban these people from speaking, we're going to do that. And it actually, even though it may be good intentions, you're actually making it worse. Whereas you just let people speak, let them hear ideas, then they'll go, actually, I don't think killing Jewish people is a good idea. That will, that will sort of, the wisdom of crowds will sort of kick in. But so all of these parties, they only focus on civil liberties, right? And it's either because this is Occam's razor, it's more likely that they have no understanding of economics, or two, they are aware of economics, but they want to, because if you look at their manifestos, it's always, we believe in free speech, but then look at their economics. And I always say this to people, if you really want to know the true intentions of any party, look at their economics, because the numbers don't lie. Because basically, if they're all saying we want a bigger state, we want to nationalize everything or most things, we want a big NHS, we want, all of this, that is basically authoritarianism through the back door of economics. So they're aware. So it's either they don't know, they don't understand economics, or two, they are very much aware of economics, but they know that civil liberties sells. So they're just going to put all their authoritarian thinkings into the economic side of it. So it's like sort of similar to what Thatcher said about the EU. I'm paraphrasing, it's fascism or it's authoritarianism via the back door. That's what it is, and people need to wake up and understand that economics is key. It's just as important. It's the twin brother of civil liberties. You need both freedoms, both liberties to be truly free. But is it a problem? People in schools are not taught economics, and it's not because people haven't tried. It's simply because our economy works, our monetary policy and all of this, it works because it needs people to be ignorant. It needs for our economy to work, it needs people to be ignorant. If we, as Henry Ford said, if people were aware of how our economy works, there would be a revolution tomorrow. There would be riots in the streets, mate, because to understand what money is, to understand debt, and that Lib Dem is a prime example of that. They have no information, they have no clue, they have no understanding of inflation and debasing the fiat currency. No clue what is. You may as well be speaking another language to them. They may as well be from another planet, because it's so far removed from their thinking.
Well, I think this would be a good point for us to lead perfectly onto our next topic. We've been talking about hidden agendas, so why not talk about globalization? And for me, I'm a bit torn on the issue currently. By this, I mean, will coronavirus have destroyed the idea of globalization, or will it have sped it up? And I say that because on one hand, you have the European Union, which for me at least, I associate with globalization, which at the first sign of trouble turned on one another. Now, do please bear in mind, of course, that the motto for the European Union is in veritate concordia, or in English, united in diversity. But as soon as trouble was on the horizon, they all became isolationists, something they accused us of doing when we voted to leave the European Union. France, for example, has implemented export controls on essential supplies such as PPE and vital medications, even just 3 days after the European Union asked them to expand the list of exports, but they refused to do so. So it does have to be asked whether or not the idea of globalization has died. What do you think, Sean?
I think it's a bit too soon to make that call because, I mean, I keep an open mind, right?
Yeah.
I listen to all sorts of opinions. Some of them really far out, and others that are very conservative, right? What is there an end game for COVID-19 in the sense that if say magically a vaccine appears, which I'm a bit dubious about because there's never been a vaccine for any coronavirus ever in history. So if this is to suddenly appear and you hear all of these stories about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and all of this sort of stuff, is it that if there's a vaccine available, would it become like a sort of social credit system like in China? Would it be that, that if you do not get a vaccine, that will be made mandatory in some sense, you will then be punished by not be allowed to, go shopping or, out in pubs or whatever. I I don't know. I don't really have. There's so many opinions being said that it's quite hard to form your own one. I mean, I like I said, I keep open minded and I'm listening to it all and
Yeah.
watching it occur in real life. Globalisation, yes, it's temporarily dead, but is it going to be resuscitated? Is it going to be reanimated? Possibly, depending on what the next steps are going to be. I mean, if there is a vaccine rolled out, what will be? I mean, if the world governments now are willing to lock down their own citizens, and and some of them having written constitutions and ignoring, like, it make right here in Britain, we have centuries old civil liberties that were progressively made, and they were advanced through wars and the Civil War, and we had all of these things, and then a government just came along and just made this coronavirus act and just threw it all away, right?
Yeah.
If they're willing to do that, would they be willing to make every single person forcefully hold them down and make them take a vaccine, or perhaps maybe not force them down, but we'll say, okay, you don't have to have the vaccine, but we're going to punish you in some form, some other way. We're going to make sure you don't have a bank account, something like that. We're going to make sure that you are, I don't know, put you in a detention center or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like it's so. I don't know. Honestly, I can't answer your question because it's just I can see it both ways. It's at least temporarily dead, globalization,
Yeah.
but is this the sort? Is this like a trend? Like when something in the stocks and shares is this something that it's about when it's about to hit big? There's usually a dip before. Is this the dip, and then suddenly it will be it'll be rocketing, um, you know, rocketing up to for more value. Is it that? I don't know.
No, I get what you mean because it is all pure speculation at the moment. I do like those kind of questions because it always gets you thinking. I'll put it that the on the other side of it, you do have a call for more global unity. And people claiming that, of course, we can survive global pandemics whilst remaining interconnected, laying this all on the doorstep of national governments for not preparing enough. Now, that last little bit is definitely true. It definitely comes down to national governments never being ready for anything like this and just thinking that this will never happen on their watch. But for me, what it has shown at least is how interconnected our world is. And whilst some globalization is good, mainly technological, so using the internet like we are now to be able to communicate with each other. You're in a Kent, London area.
Yep.
I'm in Derbyshire, so there you go. But before China, let's say, let's not get over the semantics right now. Before China could have done anything about it, let's say it was already around the world before they could have even have gone stop. Why? Flights. Will this
Yes.
put a new spin on how we look at things? Will we be jet setting everywhere? Will we not? Will certain globalization stuff like traveling, will they
I
simmer down? Will it not? It'll get people thinking, definitely, that this is the risk we'll be taking with having such an interconnected world, I think. But will the governments listen? That's the problem.
Well, I'll tell you this: we will definitely be in a post COVID-19 chapter in the world. This will be a brand new world in a way. This will be something new, and in a way, I'm a little bit excited because it may start off something positive.
Yeah,
It may actually people will start to think about more about civil liberties, and they'll start to think about more about especially if the economy is looking very likely that there's going to be at least a recession, possibly even a depression. People are going to really start asking questions because if there's any silver lining of this whole pandemic, it's that people are getting a crash course in, like I said, civil liberties, but they're also getting a crash course in money and understanding, and kind of understanding what it is. So I really hope that we aren't going to regress uh, back into back 50 years or something. And I really do hope that people flights will continue and people
yeah,
and travel will continue. I It's hard to say really. I've always been the person that, look, we need to quarantine the elderly and the vulnerable and the people. I mean, and I think that I can't remember what study it was, but there's even been sort of evidence provided saying that people between 15 years old and 44 years old, it's a minimal impact on the, the COVID-19. Is just there's just nothing. You might as well send them back out to work. There's just nothing. They're not a threat. So we need to quarantine those people. And I'm hoping that, people who, and in between that age bracket of 15 and 44, if they're really scared of the virus, then fine. They can
personal
stay in
choice.
quarantine. That's their choice, right? They don't have to let people into their house. They don't have to go out to pubs. That's on them. But the
Yeah.
people who like to take risks, because life is risk. The
Oh
whole
yeah.
the whole reason why we have rockets and we have all of these, and people get onto airplanes knowing that the airplane may, crash or whatever. It's risk. Life is risk.
Yeah.
I could literally go to the shop. I'll be going to the shops after this call, and if I get hit by a car, I get hit by a car. That's risk. I'm aware of what is going to happen to me, and it's all, you know, that is life. So I'm really hoping after this, that sort of thinking that's always been around since pretty much the dawn of time, that will continue, and people will still go abroad and fight, and do this. I really what I dislike is that the people, and I'm thinking now that it is a very silent majority that are actually against this lockdown and against this whole process. But but I mean, there was a silent majority for Brexit,
Yeah.
but this is different because it deals with life. It deals with life and death directly. And people are a little bit more scared to speak out because they know that they're going to get a lot of hate. I mean, as soon as you say anything about the lockdown, I mean, even now, I think even earlier, it was like, um, you want old people to die. It's this sort of,
I'm
you
sick
know,
and tired of those
yeah.
being made.
And there is a trend starting. I mean, I've been watching, so LBC, the radio show, has a
Yeah.
YouTube channel, and every Thursday they've been releasing a collage of people around the UK clapping for the NHS every Thursday. And I've watched, so there's been three so far each week, and every time the dislike ratio button is getting higher and higher and higher to the point now it's just surpassed the likes monumentally. The likes the dislikes have about 4 times the likes now, and it's this slow majority. And I think, honestly, if there's a referendum tomorrow to say that should we release a lockdown, I got a funny feeling that it might just be over 50% saying yes, we need to release a lockdown.
Yeah.
But obviously and they'll go, oh, well, there's all these polls, and yes, but that's not a secret ballot. Like, you need to asking people on the streets and stuff. That's different. Going into a ballot, putting something in the ballot box is different because no one knows what you said. So, I think there's a very growing lockdown skeptic majority. I can't prove that. I don't think it can be disproved either, but that's what I think now. And I'm noticing people at work. I work for Royal Mail, and there's a lot of postmen where I work, and there's a lot of them who were first wearing masks on their face and gloves, and I'm noticing that they aren't too bothered about the mask and the gloves anymore.
Yeah.
But yet they're not still saying that we need to end the lockdown because they're a bit too worried that another person who probably thinks the exact same thing as them is going to say, you want old people to die or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Just here, Professor David Spiegelhalter. I'll apologise if I've hashed his name there, but he's a statistician at the University of Cambridge who's come out this morning and said that people are over anxious about getting COVID-19, saying that the chances of getting it are relatively low. And he says that he's actually concerned that the stay-at-home messaging from the government has actually been too successful amid fears of coronaphobia could actually stop the country getting back up and running. So when you say they're the silent majority, I'm one of them. I didn't want the lockdown from the start. If you was worried about it, stay at home. If you weren't worried about it like me, I wanted to carry on going to work because I understood that, yes, life is more important than money, but without an economy, no one has a life to go back to.
Yes.
And all these services that people enjoy, if people aren't paying taxes.
Yes, and this is what I mean. This comes back to my original point of saying that people don't understand economics. They don't understand that the economy is life. If you have a bad economy, it won't just be the elderly and the vulnerable that are at threat. It's everyone. Everyone is at threat. And if you have a bad economy, that means there's more diseases, there's more unemployment, there's more homelessness, there's more death in general. They don't understand this because they're caught up in the heat of the moment. They're caught up because the mainstream media, which is my God, I can't see how anyone can ever trust the mainstream media after, and never buy a newspaper again after this. They have pushed and pushed and pushed this fear because fear is profitable. Fear sells, unfortunately, and they're pushing that, and they've turned it in. I mean, look at Piers Morgan, for example, right?
Piers Morgan.
I've never watched him anyway, but I have been noticing that apparently, Gildo Fawkes and a couple of other outlets have also said that his ratings have gone down 40%. And that's huge. People, again, is it a silent majority? I don't know, but they're pushing this, and people really need to start understanding about economics and taxation, and all of this, because that is the genesis of it all. That is where it all starts from. That's where the money trail begins, and I think people are slowly waking up to it. But you're going to get these. What unfortunately has happened now, I believe, is that people have become tribal to either you are a lockdown skeptic or you are pro-lockdown. It's become like Brexit and Remain and Leave again. And now it's become to the point where people don't care about the truth anymore. It's all about their side. You know what I mean? It's all about... It's to the point, and I don't mean to offend the people who are pro-lockdown, but it seems now, I think lockdown skeptics, and I'm trying to be objective here, I think I am, is that lockdown skeptics are optimists. They're people that are saying, look, don't worry, it's not going to kill people, right? Look at the death. Yes, all death is bad, but the Imperial College London model is wrong. There's not been 500,000 deaths there, or there's not been these wild predictions made. None of this has occurred. This is the same death level as seasonal flu. Like, I'm not saying it's seasonal flu, but I'm saying that it's
It's on
comparable
the
to the
same
season.
par,
Yeah,
death-wise.
yes,
And it's affecting the
and
same people. I'm not a
yeah,
virologist, but it's not like it's killing me or you. We don't have any. I know I'm not sure of yourself actually, but I've not got any underlying health conditions, at least relating to my
no,
respiratory system or my cardiovascular system. But it is killing people already
no,
in the risk category where flu is already a problem for them to begin with, and they get free
yeah,
flu vaccines every year.
yeah, and nor do I. I don't have any, but and just to basically say something else is that the Libertarian Party has no. We have no opinion on this. We don't have a stance on this because the science is constantly changing as it usually is, if
Yeah,
anything, and we don't have an opinion on that, right? So this is what I'm saying is just my opinions. They're not representative of the parties in general. There's probably people in the Libertarian Party who are pro lockdown, and there's people who and believe that it's going to kill millions or whatever.
yeah,
That's them. That's on them. But what? But the pro lockdown people, just back to my original point, is even though the lockdown skeptics are optimists, I think, and they're saying that it won't kill as many people, and it's not, and the evidence is showing that the actual numbers are actually showing this is no longer a prediction. Models are predictions, right? And that's been based on the prediction of what is going on now. Our evidence comes from facts, comes from the actual numbers now, the
yeah.
real numbers, right? But even saying that, I mean, I'm skeptical of even how these deaths are being counted, because it seems as though that anyone that dies now is just going, oh, he must have died of COVID-19. It's this sort of, I see memes on the internet of people coming in riddled with gunshots, and then the doctors are thinking, going, he must have died of COVID-19. Like,
Well, they're
it's
saying that,
becoming like
aren't they? The memes, yeah, like, what happens if I jump off a bridge? Grim, I know, but let's just say, right? You was asymptomatic, right? You did not even know you had coronavirus, right? You are absolutely smashed to pieces, okay? But then they go, oh, we found COVID-19 on him,
yeah,
died of
yeah,
COVID-19. It's like, no, that's
yeah,
not what killed him. Come on, people.
yeah, I know. So there's that. But it seems now, like I said, back to the tribal point, is that the pro lockdown people seem to want more people to die in order to justify their point.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Like the optimists, the lockdown skeptics are saying, no, this isn't as bad as it is. The numbers say this. Even with these questionable numbers, it's still nowhere near these, the original predictions, which justified the lockdown to begin with. And also, and the hospitals are empty. You've got Nightingale hospitals that are not even being used. One in
It's
the
been
northeast.
wound down. One of them is
Yeah,
anyway.
you've got. I mean, and no disrespect. I can't say this without being disrespectful, but the frontline staff of the NHS seem to have so much time on their hands that they have
TikTok.
time to discuss. Yeah, have time to discuss, rehearse, coordinate these dance videos. These aren't just simple. I mean, if you look at these dance videos, these are slightly complex dances. These aren't. You need time to rehearse this. You need time to do that. And I'm not being funny, but if you're and look, I've been a firefighter, right?
Yeah.
If at any point in my career, sorry, Gov, I know there's a house fire on at the moment. I'm just holding the hose here. I'm just going to put it down for us. I'll give it to someone else, right? And I'm just going to go do a dance video. I'll be back in about 5 minutes. If ever a nurse or a paramedic or a doctor was to take their job seriously, it is during a pandemic. It is during their equivalent to a house fire. It is, can you imagine if the Grenfell firefighters just went, oh no, we're going to stop what we're doing right now and just go and do a dance video. This COVID-19 are the NHS's Grenfell, right?
Yeah.
They shouldn't be going out doing it. I don't care what the excuses are of, oh, it's to make people smile and all of this. Well, you know what will make me smile more? The people who are at home who have cancer treatment appointments that are not being seen, and all of these other sort of issues that people have in their lives that are being put on a back burner because of COVID-19, and yet all these people are dancing around. Now, is it that these people that these frontline staff people are just not thinking, or is it that they're just borderline psychopaths, that they are aware of what is going on, but because they're so desperate for attention and desperate for clicks and likes, and we've become this sort of society where, I know ironically I'm talking to my phone right now, but we've become so obsessed with social media that it's now subconsciously been put in front of more of a priority than actually the well-being of people.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It winds me up. And they're always dancing in PPE. I thought it was of short supply. That's the ironic bit. They're dancing in PPE. And I get it. I know it's only, it's one use and then put it in the bin. So be it. But the people that are dancing, they're saying, aren't they, that most of the NHS staff actually aren't doing anything because all their departments have been closed down. No one's going to the hospitals. So the ones dancing are the people who really could be at home on furlough because they're doing nothing else, saving the taxpayer a goddamn lot of money. But no, they're not. Instead, we are paying them through our national insurance 8-hour shift salaries to dance on TikTok. Because let's face it, they keep saying frontline workers, all the frontline workers. No, they're not. There's only select people who are on the COVID-19 wards. It's not every single one of them. And to be going to a state now where we are clapping an institution just because, it's ludicrous. We're not in North Korea. What next?
Yes.
Are we going to be killed for not clapping hard enough, like Kim Jong Un's uncle?
Yeah, I honest to God, look, I used to be a volunteer for St. John Ambulance, so I'm not, how can I say it? I'm not, black-hearted in a way. I'm not, I do care about people. I've done these sort of roles. I was a firefighter as well, and all of this. And I'm sorry, but I will not clap for a government, for a government bureaucracy, which I think is a very bad. I think it's a bad service to the NHS. I mean, I've had personal encounters with them as well, where they've done a terrible service. A girlfriend I used to go out with, they constantly said there was nothing wrong with her, and she said, no, there's definitely something wrong with me. And as soon as she went private, diagnosed on the first day. It's this, to the point where they even tried to persuade her that, no, it's all in your head, that you have a mental problem. This is, I really hate what's going on right now, because, and people need to really start waking up and seeing the NHS for what it is. It is good intentions. I'm not saying that all the stuff, I know I've been bashing the nurses and all that. It's not them I dislike. It's the whole makeup of it. It's the whole psychology behind it. It's all the manager. I mean, they advertise my diversity officers still, during a pandemic, and they get paid more than the nurses and the paramedics. It's unbelievable.
I've seen a funny one, arts and welfare director for South Yorkshire.
I saw that. Yeah. But that's just one. That goes on all year round. And people need to understand this, and this is why I say that taxes need to be voluntary.
It would appear we've lost Sean for a minute.
When it came to me, it's like, how much will you give? Well, 0. No, I'll give you nothing, because taxes need to be voluntary. And as soon as, because whether the NHS does a good job or a bad job, they're always guaranteed to get your money, right? And it's only by, if it became voluntary and people, and if it gave, if you can get an opt out of state services and say, don't worry, Gov, I'll sort it out myself. It's only then they realize that, oh, wait, we're now sort of competing in a free market now. Wait a minute, if we do a bad job, if we don't actually pull our fingers out and start reducing NHS waste and get rid of all these ridiculous, what was that one? Whatever that was, and all these diversity officers, because you can't solve the NHS by throwing money at it, because all that will do is, that will just make it more bloated. There'll be more bureaucracy, there'll be more managers, there'll be more sort of diversity officers, there'll be all these sort of nonsense titles that have no ramifications upon improving the NHS whatsoever. I mean, even in the fire service now, we've got diversity officers, and all they do is they go around trying to find problems where there are no problems. So classic example I use is that we have lay flat holes. So basically, you bowl out lay flat holes to extend the lines to get to a fire because it might be quite far away from the fire engine for whatever reason, the pump, for whatever reason. And you have to extend the line, you simply put the male adapter into the female adapter. Well, guess what? Hundreds of years of firefighting, suddenly there's a problem with male and female adapters, and they want to change it to A and B because sexism or something. Like it's this. They want to change it. They're trying to find problems, and it's this sort of act, and they do exactly that in the police and the militaries and and the NHS. They do it everywhere. And the NHS, as soon as they realise that, oh crap, now money is voluntary, so you can have all your state services that you want. I'm not saying get rid of the NHS. I'm not an absolutionist. I'm not saying you need to. My idea is to get rid of it totally. I'm saying you can have the NHS, but I don't want to pay for it. I want out of it. If you want to stay in it, you can stay with it. But as soon as they realise that, oh wow, we're now competing for people to pay for the NHS, they'll then realise that, you know what, we don't really need these managers. We're going to make it more efficient now. It's only through that. And that's why the charities and private sector equivalents are always vastly superior, because they work, because they have an incentive to improve. Because if they give a bad service, you won't give your money to them. You'll go to their competitors, or you just won't use it. And that's what it is. The NHS has no sense of improvement. It has no sense of, there's no incentive to improve whatsoever. Because at the end of the day, they're always going to get your money because it's done via taxation, which is forced upon people to pay it. Because if they don't pay it, they go to prison. And that's why they'll never improve.
No. Well, I think we can move on to our final topic. Corporation bailouts, and more importantly, just corporatism as a whole. The big name in the last week to bring this topic to the forefront is Virgin Atlantic, with the boss of the Virgin Group asking for a commercial loan believed to be £500 million, down from his original request, however, of £7.5 billion. Now, Virgin Atlantic is not the first corporation during this current situation to ask for a bailout. You've got the likes of Arcadia Group, EasyJet, etc. The list does go on. But what does this show? Are corporations being reckless with their money, borrowing unserviceable debts, thinking that they are too big to fail, and when time gets tough, they know the government will bail them out? This, to me, is not capitalism, but corporatism. What do you think about it?
Yep, I do think that. I think that I've always said that the government needs to be totally out of the market completely, because, like you say, they will all, big businesses will always go, they'll almost blackmail government in a way by saying that, listen, if we go under, there's going to be massive unemployment and you're going to be held responsible for that. And and then the government will go, oh no, we better bail them out because I don't want to be a prime minister or a government in charge or a cabinet, a cabinet member that is overseeing that. I don't want to be responsible for that, so we better bail them out. This is what I mean. The government needs to get out of the market totally and give power back to the people, because I think personally, it's not your vote which is the most powerfulest. I think you, as a consumer, or we want to call it a service user, it is vastly more powerful than a vote, because it's all about, well, if you're a bad, like I said earlier, if you're a bad service, you sell me a shoddy product, I'm gonna use my power to protest by not buying from you, and that is vastly more powerful. But right now, we have crony capitalism, or whatever, corporatism, whatever you want to call it. I call it crony capitalism personally, because people get a little bit confused about corporatism. They think it's about big corporations, and it's like, no, it's actually it's a sort of unholy alliance or unholy marriage between government and big corporations. So I just call it crony capitalism personally. And you see this as well in the market. So you've got electric cars, let's say, for example. And I've tried to explain this to a UKIP guy. We're on a podcast.
You've broke up again. You back?
Hello?
Hiya.
What was the last thing you heard?
You were speaking to some UKIP guy. I'll just point out for people. Don't worry. This is one of the problems of working virtually. things happen. But hey ho, we can get back on it, and I can edit bits out, so don't worry. All right.
The example, I don't know what you heard, but the example I was using was the electric car industry, and basically what the government has done by interfering in, it's interventionism. That's what it is. They've intervened in the car market, and basically they've said, oh, due to green lobbyists pushing them to, coercing government to do something, and they've done, and they've been successful, and they've gone to the electric car industry and said, oh, because your cars are so expensive, we're gonna give a subsidy, and by doing so, they have unintentionally price frozen electric cars and basically taking them out of the free market, taking them out of competition. Because if the government never came along and gave them subsidies,
no one would ever buy them.
No, not just that, but the electric cars industry, like Tesla, let's say, they'd be forced to compete with diesel and petrol models. But right now, because the government has come along and said we're going to subsidize it to make it cheaper, they've price frozen it. So now the electric car industry will never ever. Why would they? Why would they lower their prices? Because the city government has come along and said, "Oh, we're going to give you millions and millions of pounds of taxpayers' money." So Elon Musk and other electric car businesses aren't going to say, "Oh, we're going to lower the price to compete with diesel and petrol."
Yeah, it's distorted the market would be the fairest point to make. It appears we've lost Sean again, which is a shame.
Hello.
I'm alright. How are you?
Yeah. I think let's move on. I think I made my point. Did I? Or
we got to we got to the point about electric cars basically being subsidized, so they've not got to compete with any other manufacturer of cars like diesel and petrol. So we did get to there. I've got one more bit if you want, and then I think maybe wrap it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I think is surprising is how cash poor all these billionaires are. Let's take Richard Branson, for example. He is worth £3.5 billion, yet he doesn't have access to £500 million. Now, I know that his wealth is tied up in assets, but what good are assets when you cannot shift them for cash injections into your business? The quote that is attributed to Mussolini goes like this: "Fascism should more properly be called corporatism, since it is the merger of state and corporate power." How right is this?
Definitely. Absolutely. That I wasn't aware of that quote. I wasn't aware that he said that.
Well,
but yes,
I can't guarantee for certain that he did. That's why I've said it's attributed to him.
Okay. But yes, I wasn't aware. I sort of came to that conclusion myself independently. But yes, like I said, it's crony capitalism. It is what we have now, and in most of the West, I think in every country really. I really can't think of a real country that doesn't have a government interfering in a market. I can't think of one on the top of my head anyway, unless it's a micronation or something. Yeah, I agree with that statement. I think that, personally, I've got to the point now where I think the government needs to, well, not just out of the market, but pretty much out of everything, really. Just stop, and that's why I'm not an ANCAP. I'm not anarcho-capitalist, but I wouldn't call myself a minarchist either. I would, if I had to say, if I had to choose one of the two, I would be more probably closer akin to minarchism. But like I said, I'm more of a voluntarist. You choose. You can have your state. You can have the state services. I mean, but just make it about choice, man. That's all you need to do. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just simply give people choice, and just say, if you're a big lover of the NHS, let's say, then fine, continue contributing to the NHS. That's on you. That's your choice. But people who don't want to contribute to the state because they have a possible, even religious belief against it. I mean, or a fundamental disagreement with it. I mean, we've got our taxes, they go to things that institutions that people have a fundamental disagree with. They go to abortion clinics. They go and bail out, which is looking likely. They go and bail out big corporations like Virgin and big banks. Like in 2008. People have moral and religious and just outright flat out objections to funding these sort of institutions. And I think if you simply introduce choice, you don't need to reinvent, like I say, you don't need to reinvent the entire taxation system, or you don't have to reinvent government or society or anything like that. Just give choice.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do. And then everything will be, oh, right. So I'll just have to sort it out myself. Yes. That's all you have to do. Okay, fine. I'm independent minded and I can do that, I think. And if you can't, then you can rejoin the state. That's up to you. I think that's what we need to be looking towards, rather than all of the other parties that go, oh, if we just get in and we implement our manifesto, everything will be rainbow land. No. I think it needs to be definitely give people choice, because I think personally right now we're living in an era of economic slavery. I think because we don't have a choice in the matter. We have to pay our taxes whether we like it or not. And that, to me, if you're forced to do something against your will, that is not living in a civil society. That is living in a society of slavery, basically, of being forced to do something against your will.
Yeah. No. Well, I think that's a good point to end it. Rounding it all off nicely to the first point that we raised originally. It's been a great discussion, Sean. I'd like to thank you for coming on today.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
I apologise for the slight breakups, people, but this is the only issue with technology. It's not always perfect. I wish you all the best, Sean, and I have enjoyed talking to you today. I'd also like to say thanks to everyone who has been listening to the Libertarian Conservative podcast. Before we go, I'd appreciate that if our listeners have enjoyed our podcast, to hit like, press subscribe, and until next time, goodbye.